You are listening to MMA Think Tank with Jay and Mike. You are listening to MMA Think Tank with Jay and Mike.
Welcome to the MMA Think Tank Podcast. I am your host, Jay, and of course, along with me is Mike. Mike, how are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. A lot of my picks didn't pan out the way I thought they would, but the main one did, and it paid off really well. Jay, I want to tell you right now, I haven't bet on fights, but if I did, I'd win a lot of money. First time I bet was this time. I won a cool $5.
Oh, $5. That sounds pretty good there. You made out.
Conor McGregor giving me the money fights.
Anyway, a lot of my fights I picked didn't pan out, but the last two went, well, pretty much like we thought with the last fight. Well, we didn't guess that it would be a one-punch knockout. Okay. Right. But the Rockhold fight went the way I thought.
Well, not that early. I think it could have been a one-punch knockout, possibly like in the third, but not like that early.
Yeah. So let's dive right in. UFC 194. Let's get into the Conor McGregor Jose Aldo fight, or Jose Aldo to be respectful. Mike, this fight did not exactly go the way we thought. We all knew that Conor's left hook, and we've said it on the podcast numerous times, if he connects with that left hook, it's lights out for Aldo. We've said that. We've said that months ago. We've been saying that for quite some time, you and I. And it happened. And I know there's going to be a lot of haters out there, and Aldo kind of jumped the gun and said it. Oh, it wasn't a long enough fight. Not long enough for him to get going. It wasn't a fight. Well, Joe cleared that up. It was a fight, Aldo. You just got knocked out.
And Joe's a really good professional. He told him like it is. And just really quick, I'll jump back to Aldo in a second. He called it also in the Weidman fight. That fight should have been stopped earlier, and it wasn't. But I'll go back now to Aldo. And I was talking to a buddy of mine. We all talk to our buddies and friends either online or in person. And I said sometimes things are simple. And to me, this was simplicity. I said that length, he would win. With length, speed, and that's how he won. And I didn't expect, obviously, for him to win it in 13 seconds. But that what I think, not Aldo, excuse me. I think that McGregor said it best. It was going to happen later down the line. I really believe that. So,
yeah.
I basically opened the door, screamed outside my door because I was so elated for to get one right, I guess. And here's what's going to happen, man. I think somewhere in Africa, they're going to get a bunch of EA games with Aldo on the cover. That's what I think.
That's a good one, yeah. And Rousey, right? Because
but she was already on there, though.
Yeah, she was already on there, but I think they made that mistake because it should have been Holly. But anyway, it should have been Rousey, but then Holly beat her. So
yeah, Rousey was already on there permanently.
Yeah,
but they can change it if they want to.
But anyway, folks, Conor McGregor beats Jose Aldo in the first in 13 seconds. One punch KO. Me and Mike, we've been saying this for a long time that Aldo was going to get beat if he tries to stand with McGregor. Right. Now, Mike knows, and I'm not just saying all this stuff. I'm not a nut hugger. I don't really, I look at the fights based on, the fighters. Sometimes I pull for one fighter over the other, but I'm not here riding Conor's coattails, okay? I am telling you, if you ask Mike, the past couple weeks I've been telling Mike, you know what? If Aldo gets those leg kicks going like he used to, it could pose a problem for McGregor. Now, I was still pulling for McGregor to win, but I thought that Jose could throw up, them legs and catch Conor, maybe slow him down. I was still saying that Conor was going to win, but Mike knows I've been saying that. So it's not like I'm riding coattails here or anything. I see it now. Aldo's never going to get with those leg kicks again like he used to. I guess maybe he doesn't have it anymore. What do you think, Mike?
Well, Yeah, see, that's why I didn't ever talk too much about the leg kicks, because he wasn't throwing them. I didn't notice.
He hasn't thrown
I
them
didn't
in a
really notice
long
him since the
time.
Faber fight.
Yeah.
And I didn't think he was going to throw him because of the length of Aldo's fight. The length of Aldo's. McGregor's punches.
Yeah.
They're too long. And that's why when we discuss things with people, sometimes I get discuss fights with people. Sometimes I get to very big minutia, and you need to get into the minutia of who's going to win. For me, it was two things. Either Conor McGregor's going to win because of his length and his power and his speed and his youth and his athleticism, and and that's what happened basically, short as it was, or Aldo was going to win by grappling.
Yeah,
because he didn't get a chance to grapple because he got knocked out, and that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah,
and I don't know how much you want to talk about this fight, because we could talk about it for a long time. I'm going to jump in really quick to what we say. What do we do here now with Aldo?
Yeah.
What do you think?
We got to talk about this fight, number one. And number two, what do we do with Aldo? Sure, give him a rematch. He's been the champ for how many years? But, unfortunately, I think it's going to go the same way. It may not happen in 13 seconds, but I doubt the fight gets out of the first round.
Yeah, I don't like giving people rematches when they're beaten soundly.
That's why I'm saying that. It's kind of hard to just, okay, well, it's not going to go any different,
Right, so,
but he's been the champ. I respect that.
Right, I understand, but I think if you're beaten soundly, even if you're the champ or you've won, you're Fedor Emelianenko and won, 20 fights in a row, you fight another fight and you come back. If you're the champ, you do it. I do understand the point of view of doing the rematch. It's business. It's something that people still want to see, because let's face it, this wasn't the Frankie Edgar Chad Mendes fight where it went longer. This was really quick. But I'm sure we're going to have a rematch, and I think just like with Holly Holm and Ronda Rousey, I think it's going to go, well, not the same way, because I don't think that Aldo's going to get knocked out in 13 seconds again. But I think that McGregor's going to win again.
It'll be another KO.
Yeah,
definitely. But that left hook, McGregor's not just spouting nonsense. That left hook is dangerous, and he's done it time and time again to people. And you know what? Kudos to McGregor. I mean, I know if Aldo does get the rematch, it's not going to go his way again. But if you say give him another fight before he comes back, before he gets a rematch, Mike, then who do you pose he fight?
Yeah, that's a good question. I might give him Max Holloway, and that might not be fair to Holloway, but I want Frankie Edgar to get the next shot. And I think Holloway's behind Edgar.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. I know where you're going with that. I kind of like that Edgar Conor fight. But where do you think that left hand? What does that do to Edgar?
Oh, I think Conor McGregor's unbeatable.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, let me back that up back a little bit. I realized Chad Mendes didn't have a full camp, so I think Chad Mendes still probably could beat him.
Here's the thing about Chad Mendes, though. I think he's got a suspect chin now. I think it's really suspect now. 2 knockouts in a row for Chad, and against a guy like Frankie Edgar, who's not known for his power, and that wasn't a power strike, and it clipped him on the nose, and he went down like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, it was, Edgar's that volume guy. He puts it to you. It's like Nick Diaz, it adds up. And so, yeah, that's something that, I agree with. But the reason I pick Mendes, though, is because what he did in the first fight on 2 weeks' notice, which is the takedowns.
Yeah, let's not get too much into Mendes and Edgar. We will get to that fight, folks. But Conor, Jose, that's
what happens when a fight ends in 13 seconds.
I know, exactly. If I still say Jose gets a rematch. It's not going to go his way no matter what, but give him the rematch, give him the respect, and after that, what do you think happens to him when he loses again? If they do give him the rematch and he loses,
well, here's the thing with Jose Aldo. He was a fine champ. He was an awesome champ. He was a respectable champ, but he always pulled out, and that's another reason why I don't want him to fight. Yeah. It's another reason why I don't want him to fight Conor McGregor again. That's why I want him to fight Holloway or somebody else.
He's pulled out 5 times out of fights.
He's injury prone, and he's been fighting for a long time. Something we always talk about, and maybe it's not on the podcast, but it's not the years, honey. It's the mileage.
Exactly.
And the old Raiders of the Lost Ark quote, and that's where he's at now. Kind of what I think. And forgive me just for a moment. That's what I feel about Chad Mendes, to go along with you're talking about not having a chin. fighting high competition for so long. I think Aldo is going to be still a great fighter. He's going to beat a lot of guys. This might be the beginning of his Uriah Faber downfall, where Uriah was the best, and then he's beating guys, but just not the champs. That progression I think is going to happen. I do.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up about Mendes real quick. Don't want to get too deep into it, but I was talking with Demetrius Johnson, and he said that exact thing about Mendes, that maybe he's just been tagged too many times, in so many fights against great opponents, that maybe that's why his chin is suspect now. Who knows? But,
yeah.
But on to the next fight, of course. Congrats to Conor McGregor first. Awesome. Well,
and I'm excited about where we go now, just in the whole UFC now. I mean, you've dethroned a longtime champ. Conor McGregor has backed it up.
Yeah.
I mean, all hell is broken loose.
Yeah, and Conor has come out and said on several occasions that he wants to give Edgar the next fight, and after that, he's going to move up to lightweight. And kudos to him if he could do it.
I know you want to move on, but let me just give you one last thing then. Assuming he beats Edgar, and I think he will, and I think he'll knock him out, but it'll take a while because Edgar is just one tough SOB.
Yeah, he is.
Do you think he has to beat Holloway to move up, or do you think he just moves up?
Not at all. After the
he just defends his belt once or twice, and then moves up,
People know, and people on this podcast that has listened to us in the past know that I'm high on Holloway. Yet I still don't think he's at the level of skill where Conor is right now. Anyway, I don't see it yet. Yeah, he's more versatile, but his stand up is nowhere near Conor's, and I think that he probably would get knocked out.
Yeah. He proved it when they fought the first time, and I'm sure that Holloway's gotten better. But my point, really, I should have cleaned it up a little easier, is that it's more about the defenses that McGregor has to do before moving up. And if he beats Aldo, which is huge, let's say he beats him again, I think a guy should at least defend the belt, 2-3 times before moving up. But if they let him move up, then hey, let him move up and take the belt.
I agree with that.
If he can.
I agree with that, but at the same time, I think it's kind of unique and pretty awesome for a fighter to hold different belts in different weight classes. We've seen it before, but not quite this fast, if he were to do that right after Edgar. But assuming he beat Edgar, that is. But
this Conor McGregor, this is something that they have to act fast. I agree with. This is a phenomenon that you don't see very often in the UFC. The only time you've seen something close, in my opinion, is Anthony Pettis when he was on his big run and he was beating people, the Showtime kick, and then he had that setback maybe against Clay Guida, but he then just took off and he was going to be the next big thing.
Then we saw it in Ronda Rousey.
Right now.
We saw it in Ronda Rousey.
Even better example.
Yeah,
Ronda Rousey, the same thing. So, if he does move up to 155, I'd like to see him fight a couple fights before the title. But, if BJ Penn can win the welterweight title from Matt Hughes, but just stepping up one time, I guess there's a precedent being set, even though that was like 2004.
And I know we sound like fanboys here talking about McGregor, but, in some respect, how can you not be with these finishes and these fights that he's been calling and finishing and just dismantling his opponents? Like it's crazy.
I don't like him as a person. I'm not a big fan of his. So this is not about because I'm a fanboy, like you said.
Yeah, I don't mind him as a person. I get it. It's shtick. Honestly, he does it to sell fights. I get it. It's kind of like Chael Sonnen, but as a fighter, you have to respect the guy. It's like I'm not a fan of John Jones personally. But as a fighter, I respect his game. That guy is one of the best.
Yeah, totally.
So it's just like that. Silva, same thing with Anderson Silva. Was the same way with him. But Mike, we really got to get moving here. So let's get on to the next fight.
Yeah.
Rockhold versus Weidman. Man, Mike, I can't say that I'm shocked because I kind of predicted this. I kind of knew that this would go this way. I said third round, he was probably going to TKO him. Third round, he should have TKO'd him. It should have been stopped. So
you thought that Chris Weidman would be winning the fight and then throw a stupid kick and then get finished?
No, Chris Weidman wasn't winning. It was 1-1. Luke Rockhold had that second round. Weidman had that first round. Third round, Weidman again, and I predicted this as well. I told you earlier in the day, I said Weidman's got to fight smart to win this fight. He didn't fight smart. He had a brain fart and threw that wheel kick and got caught. Rockhold is a beast. He's been a beast in Strikeforce. Coming into this fight, watching some of the other fights, these fighters that he's dismantled like Machida and just all the fights he's been through, and to see how he fights. One thing I would say about Rockhold to knock him in this fight, he looked tired. Like he said, he looked tired right away, and that's something I don't usually see from him. And if it's true about all this drugs he's on, the medications he's on and stuff, and he had a staph infection, kudos to him for putting away the champ the way he did then.
Yeah, I just disagree with you because, Rockhold was, why I thought Weidman was winning the third round, and I'm going to agree with Joe. Joe is not the arbitrator, obviously. He's just another guy. But I think he was winning that third round, and I'm not saying he was going to finish him right there, but he was winning that third round through a dumb kick, and maybe it still would have been Luke Rockhold winning that fight because they were both really tired. But, man, Luke was wincing. Luke was looking bad. And then Weidman threw a stupid kick and gave up the fight. It wasn't a fluke or anything, but I agree with Joe Rogan when he said, because I said the same thing when it happened. I yelled it, as a matter of fact, because I was very emotional about it, is that you just gave up the fight over a stupid move.
Yep.
That's nothing like you ever do. And kudos to Luke Rockhold for jumping on it and should have finished it, which is not his fault. It's the bad ref's decision. Now, Jay, I realize that when you got a championship fight, you let it go a little longer, but that was ridiculous.
That was ridiculous. Part of me was sitting there like in disbelief saying, why are you letting this go on so long? Like, are you just trying to get Weidman to the next round? That's what I was thinking in my head. It's like, are you just letting him ride it out? Because number one, it was very dangerous to let him get beat on the head the way he was beat up. I mean, he could have gotten concussed right there. I'm sure he did. His bell was rung. When he was on the cage, they were literally like holding him up and his head drooped down for 1 second. And I was like, wow, he's not even in the game right now. And it's like he woke up standing there.
Yep.
And that was very dangerous of Herb Dean to let him ride that out. And you're 100% correct. Weidman was winning that third round. He got a lot of kicks to the body against Rockhold in that third round. He had Rockhold wincing a few times with those leg kicks to the body. That said, I am confident in saying if they were to rematch, Rockhold would dismantle him again. Rockhold will get him to the ground and pound him again. I'm confident.
I don't know if that'll happen, but I certainly see Rockhold having a better chance of winning this time. And I'm not picking Chris Weidman in a rematch either right now. It's kind of goes along the way with the Aldo McGregor fight, which is, well, no, I won't say Aldo McGregor because, McGregor landed a punch that you're supposed to throw, whereas Weidman, it's either here nor there. It's just our views on it. And I'm not saying that your
not that
pick is
different.
Nullified because your pick was correct. Please don't get me wrong on that.
No,
and my
not
pick
at
was
all.
wrong. It's just one of those things where you go, really?
No, it's not. It's not that we're that far off either in how we feel, because you're right. He was winning the fight. He did something stupid, but I predicted that. I said he has to fight smart. He's done some dumb things before, and he did it tonight. So he lost the fight. Rockhold is technically a better fighter than Weidman. What I thought when Weidman was going to take his back in the first round, I thought smart game plan, Weidman. That's the way to beat this guy. Grind him down, bring him to the ground, and do some ground and pound of your own, which he did in the first round. I thought at that moment in the first round, I thought, oh, Weidman could win this fight. I was shocked at the way Rockhold looked, to be honest, in that first round. He looked tired. The whole fight, he was throwing punches like lazily, and I'm not used to that Rockhold.
Well, I wasn't shocked because this is going to be a close fight. I thought the whole way through. I did pick Weidman probably by TKO ground and pound, but I wasn't shocked. I was only shocked about the kick that Weidman threw. That's the only thing I was shocked about. Because Rockhold easily could have won this fight, just like Aldo could have won his fight. And Rockhold did win this fight. What I want to say is, how have we not talked about Kid Rock yet? Kid Rock was in the cage.
Yeah.
What about Kid Rock?
You know what? He's irrelevant. Why do we want to talk about him? He's not a fighter.
Are you telling me he doesn't know jiu-jitsu?
Oh, I don't know what he knows. I know he knows Jack Daniels.
Okay, I guess you're right.
As far as Rockhold, what's next? Rematch, right?
I don't think so.
No,
I wouldn't. No. I would.
Man, a lot of disrespect to the champs, the former champs tonight, Mike.
Well, I mean, if you get beat soundly, I don't think you get a rematch. That's me personally. Yeah, I hope he does. I still love Chris Weidman. As much as I was yelling at him for doing something stupid, I'm still a fat guy sitting on the couch.
Hey,
okay?
And don't get it wrong.
And I still love the guy.
Hey, I like Chris Weidman. I'm a fan of Chris Weidman, but I'm more of a fan of Weidman than Rockhold. But I think that Rockhold is the better fighter right now. I think he's the smarter fighter. He's the more technical fighter.
No, but you're starting saying things over again. What's the point of that one? So why do you think he needs a rematch? Based off of that?
Honestly, just because he was a champ for a while. And I don't know. He beat Anderson freaking Silva twice. Like,
okay, well that's fine. It's just you were talking about something. You were giving reasons, and I was like, wait a minute, that's
no. It's just that I'm all for giving the champs rematches. The ex-champs. But, I see your point. When they're beat soundly, it's like, move on to the next. But if they don't, who do they give Rockhold next?
Well, that's where I think if you want to talk about Jacare Souza, Yoel Romero, that's where we could get into that, and that's part of the conversation. I understand.
Let's go ahead and get into that fight, guys. Anyway, just to recap, we were just talking about Rockhold Weidman. Rockhold TKO, 4th round. Should have been the end of the third, but the ref should have said. Oh,
another reason, Jay. Sorry to interrupt you. Another reason why I think it shouldn't be a rematch. It should have been stopped in the third.
That's true. That's true. And I would have been right on with my prediction. The third.
Yes, you would have.
Dang it. But anyway, Herb Dean let him ride it out. Okay, so Herb Dean let him ride it out. So 4th round TKO for Rockhold. He's the new champ at middleweight. Sorry, yeah. Welterweight. What am I talking about? So next we have Jacare Souza versus
Yoel Soldier of God Romero.
There you go. And what is up with this guy Romero and his cheating ways? I don't understand this guy. And I know we got a lot of guys that sometimes grab onto the fence or something, but
reactionary, I understand.
Oh man, that dude was holding on for a while, and I just kept screaming at the TV, he's holding the fence, ref, he's holding the fence. And you could see Jacare was trying to take him down. He was using a lot of energy to try to get him down. And as soon as they went down, that fence helped him get top control. And what did Goddard do as the ref? He stepped in, pulled him up. And I've never seen a ref do that before right after something like that when they get to the ground. I think
because it was such a hard grab. It wasn't a glancing grab.
Yeah,
he held on to it for a while.
Yeah. But kudos to Goddard to stand him up and warn Romero, hey, I'm going to take a point next time. And also say, and the reason why I did it is because you got top control because you held onto that fence.
Yeah, and what's interesting is because Romero had a fantastic round one. Landed a spinning back elbow or back fist. I'm not sure if the elbow landed or the fist landed. It might have been just the forearm.
Oh, it was fantastic.
And sent Jacare down. And I thought, this is it. And I was very surprised that Romero got into Jacare's guard. Because I thought, hey, you're gonna get subbed. Just let him up and finish him on the feet. He's not, he's not right. Stand him up, knock him out, and go home. You got the title shot. That's what I thought. And then round two, like you just discussed, the fence grab, all that stuff. How did you score it? Because I still scored it for Souza 29-28.
That's exactly what I scored it. Souza 29-28. I gave him rounds 2 and 3. I mean, easily.
Yeah, I gave round two. I thought round two was kind of close, but because of the fence grab, even though the fence grab is not a point taken away, I still consider it part of the fight. And if a round is close, if you do anything like a groin shot, a fence grab, or at least a hard fence grab, or an eye gouge, if it's close, you know what? The guy who played by the rules gets that round. And so that's why I gave it to Jacare. Third round, he won the third round by the grappling match, just on his own. Round three was soundly his, in my Jacare's, in my opinion. And I think we have the wrong guy fighting Luke Rockhold now.
Yeah. Yoel Romero is a guy that, honestly, he's a good fighter. He's a real strong guy, but just the shenanigans he's played in the cage, and ever since the Tim Kennedy Stoolgate,
right?
I've kind of been down on this guy. Jacare should have won that fight. It should be Jacare.
Let me jump in on that Stoolgate. I gave him the benefit of the doubt on Stoolgate. I still thought he was probably cheating, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt because his bell was rung, and when his bell is rung, he's sitting there, and his corner is doing these things to him. Therefore, It was his corner doing it, not the fighter.
Yep.
This time, it was solely the fighter. It was solely Yoel Romero, which tells me he's just a dirty cheater.
And did you hear Joe talking in between rounds 1 and 2, talking about how, is this going to happen again?
Yep.
And I couldn't see.
It wasn't Romero though. It was Jacare.
Yeah.
This time.
But and on the other side, then he started talking about how Romero was getting a lot of water poured over him, and you have to wipe all that up. You can't leave him like that.
That was after the second round was over. The first time though was after the first round was over with Jacare. So these guys, these corners, man, they're playing fast and loose with the rules, and something's got to come down on this. Yeah,
but as far as the fight goes itself, I thought Jacare won 29-28. But they gave the decision to Romero, and you know how it is. Don't leave it in the hands of the judges, folks. If you're in there fighting and you think you're up, you might not be on the scorecards.
Yeah, and just to kind of tether it to the Chris Weidman Luke Rockhold fight, I thought Chris Weidman was going to hold this belt for a while, and now I'm thinking now that Luke Rockhold's going to hold this belt for a while. Romero's not going to beat him unless he lands a hard punch, maybe, and I don't think Jacare would beat him, not just because Jacare lost to him earlier in Strikeforce, but I think it's kind of a moot point here. What do you think?
And I don't think Romero beats Rockhold.
Yeah, it would just be by a hard punch, in my opinion.
Exactly. That's how it would be for sure. Anyway, Mike, next up we had Damian Maia versus Gunnar Nelson. I was a fan of this fight. It just showed me a couple of things. Number one, that Gunnar Nelson is game, but Maia is just so darn good at what he does.
Yeah, this was an equivalent of an old martial arts movie where the brash young upstart, and by the way, I don't say that to mean that Gunnar Nelson is a trash-talking young man or anything, but he thinks he can take on the master, the wizened master, and the wizened master just put it on him and put it on him hard. Yeah. And something, we text each other during fights a lot, and something I texted you to let the fans know is that how does Neil Magny look now getting through the first round with Damian Maia? I realized Magny got finished in the second round, but man, was able to hold on to the whole fight. Maia's for real. What do you think?
Two things about that when you bring up Magny and Maia. Number one, you have a guy in Magny that can throw strikes. Gunnar was out. What was that? It was crazy. It was like 90% of the strikes that landed were by Maia, or maybe even more. It could have been like 95%. Gunnar didn't have anything for him on the feet at all when they were on the feet.
Yeah.
And when he got taken down, it was just, there was nothing thrown by him. It was a lot of defense played. And I understand you got Damian Maia on your back. Right. What are you going to do? But that's the one thing Magny had going for him. He had the hands. Gunnar didn't have that. And he got beat.
Yeah, the first round was fantastic. The first round, I was like, this is the fight I want to see. And Maia won that round, but it was a good round.
Yeah, it was a good fight. Chess match.
And round two, he kind of started pulling away, and round three, we already knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, and the total strikes landed, I have it here, 193-7.
Yeah, that's all in the guard and stuff, right? And on the back and stuff.
Yes, it's got to be. But that's insane, though. Regardless, 193-7. That's the most lopsided strikes ever. It's like.
Oh no, I hear you. I'm just saying because I'm trying to think to myself, were they on their feet at all?
Yeah. But, hey, Damian Maia wins decision. He won that fight. And kudos to, to Gunnar for lasting as long as he did,
Yeah. Well, and this, to me, this fight lived up closer to what I thought it would be than the next fight we'll talk about soon. The Jeremy Stevens and Max Holloway
Oh, yeah.
fight. But I
Yeah.
want to say something real quick. And I just wrote it down also because that was pretty important. 4 in a row now for Damian Maia, and I think they said he was 9-2 overall since moving to welterweight, and that's big. And I've written about that too on the Facebook page. And it's something that I've talked about. Jay, I think you and I may have talked about it not on the show, but just us being friends and talking. Maia's one of those guys that I think can beat Robbie Lawler. It's styles that go against styles, and I'm not saying that you give him Robbie Lawler in the next fight, but that's what he asked for. That's what he asked for.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I'd have to think long and hard on that one. Maia's ground game is legit, but Robbie's stand-up is so good. Like, if he connects on Maia, he can knock Maia out. But
Right.
will he connect?
See, I don't think he will.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. Something that is apparent to me now after a few fights. Damian Maia, whether it is because people are afraid of his jiu-jitsu, just like a lot of people are afraid to shoot in on, so a lot of the strikers because of a knee might come out and get him, is his takedowns. Damian Maia, he's got great takedowns. This guy's not a wrestler.
Yeah, he does.
He's a grappling expert. That's true. But he's also 38 years old. He's an older guy.
Yep.
So, I mean, he's coming in just looking gangbusters at welterweight.
He's got that old man strength.
Yeah, so I texted you.
Yeah,
like
he's got that old man strength.
strength.
But Damian Maia is one of those guys who fell victim to MMA math, after the fight, during the interview, talking about how he beat Magny and Magny beat Gastelum, therefore he should be up for the belt. I didn't get his whole thing there, but or he should be ranked better or ranked higher.
Yeah, he should be ranked higher.
And the thing is like, look, just because you beat someone that beats someone else that's higher ranked doesn't mean that you automatically. I don't know.
And that's saying to
It
you
was just
also
kinda odd.
is that, well, I didn't say that, but you said that. But what I said too, for listeners out there, is that, look, Maia, you beat guys that weren't as good as you, that were ranked lower. So therefore, you're probably not going to move up the food chain if you beat guys that are lower.
Exactly. And when Magny beat Gastelum, of course, he was ranked higher, so he moves up. So we'll see what happens with Maia. Who do you think he fights next?
Well, it's something I haven't really thought about because, we just try to jump on when we the fights are over. But if I had to do a quick think about it, we've got Condit fighting Lawler. Woodley, I think, is next in line. I don't think Woodley's going to want to take a fight. I think he's going to sit out. So welterweight, 170. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe you guys out there are screaming a name right there, calling me an idiot. Go on the Facebook, tell us who you think. Call in. Jay, you got the number. What's the number for the podcast?
925-237-1296. Yeah, call us up. You can leave a message. Tell us what you think about Damian Maia and who he should fight next, or about any of these fights. Go ahead and let us know how you feel about them. 194 was a great card.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have I'm gonna be writing a lot on it after maybe tomorrow. I'll be going home. I'm gonna just go to church, come home, and just be writing it. Be a writing.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, so check out the Facebook tomorrow. There'll be a lot of articles up on all these fights. Mike writes them all out, and he does a good job with them. So check it out.
Thank you.
So you could also email us at mmathinktank@gmail.com. And we're on Twitter, guys, MMA Think Tank PC. So you can find us at MMA Think Tank P as in Paul and C. So MMA Think Tank PC. Anyway, Mike, let's go on to the last fight we'll talk about on this card. No, actually, we got 2 fights to talk about on this card because I do want to touch on one of the prelims. Let's go ahead and talk about Holloway versus Stevens. Mike, this is a fight that when we first talked about it, when we first saw this fight on paper, we thought this is going to be an awesome fight. And I can't wait to see where Holloway's at, where Stevens is at after all these years. And this was a total dud.
Yeah.
It just was.
I think
we had a great last 15 seconds in this fight.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess they respected each other a little too much. I mean that in the way that they didn't want to get hurt. This is an important fight, especially for Holloway on his run. You know, he was like, he had like 6 in a row or 7 in a row. Maybe it's 7 in a row now.
Yeah.
But when it kicked off the card, I was really worried because is this going to be one of those cards that is just looks gangbusters and awesome and then doesn't deliver? And I think overall it did deliver.
It did.
I was let down.
It did. It delivered. It was just this fight didn't deliver. And starting off with a fight like this, it does get you thinking. It does get you kind of worried for the night. But, you know.
These guys are bangers, and they didn't bang.
Yeah. And Joe brought it up at the beginning of the fight that I guess when Stevens was going to fight Anthony Pettis, when he was about to fight Anthony Pettis, they brought in Max Holloway to train with Stevens to act as Anthony Pettis. And I guess maybe that's where that whole respect thing comes in.
Yeah, that's interesting too because, you know, on the mic, Holloway, man, he spoke quicker than I do because I'm kind of a mumbler and a quick talker. But he said something that it wasn't about could be. I mean, Holloway was going a mile a minute calling people out. You know, the fact that he grabbed the mic from Joe, just snatched it and went on that whole rant of, you know, I want to fight for the belt and you know, it can be in Ireland or it can be in Hawaii or Brazil, but I'm coming next and all that stuff. It was an odd thing.
Yeah. And which, by the way, I couldn't understand most of what he was saying.
Yeah, he was talking really fast, you know, calling out, you know, the winner of Aldo McGregor. You know, we can do it in Ireland, we can do it in Hawaii or Brazil or you know, wherever. And he just kept going and going and going. You know, and as a guy like myself who kind of talks fast and, you know, a little unclear sometimes, you know, maybe I could understand a little bit more than you could because, you know, I'm kind of like that.
I just couldn't understand it. Anyway, Max Holloway won by decision, folks, and it was pretty much a dud, like we said. Except for the last 15 seconds, it's like they woke up and started fighting and started punching each other. And it was pretty cool to watch. But like I said, 15 seconds. All right, Mike, the one fight I wanted to talk about on the prelims was the Faber-Sainz fight. Sainz or Signs, however you say it. Anyway, this fight, it was kind of weird. Sainz or Signs, how do you say this?
Well, I say Sands, but it sounded like they were saying Signs.
Yeah. People say it differently. Anyway, I'll go with Signs. Well, Frankie Signs is a guy that, well, quite frankly, I thought was going to get beat by Faber soundly, you know, 30-27. I thought it was going to be a decision and an easy decision, but he was game. This guy brought it. And this guy, you know, he fought his butt off, quite frankly.
Yeah, and, you know, it was a close first round. I gave it to Faber. I mean, you know, Faber did win 30-27, but it's one of those scores that even though it's soundly for one guy in the scorecards, a lot of the rounds were close. And really the only round that wasn't super close was the second round, in my opinion, because Faber almost finished him, landed a really good, you know, threw a leg up for a leg kick, but the knee landed, hurt Sands. And Faber started putting it to him. I was screaming. You know, we're both big Faber fans. I thought he was going to finish the fight. You know, he didn't finish the fight. Sands is a tough guy. That's what people had said about him in the past. And there's a mix of things going on here. One, Faber got tired. So, you know, he's getting older and maybe he's not, you know, as, you know, doing as well as he used to be because of age. And also Sands is just a good guy. He's just a tough guy. So really, Faber would have finished this fight in the second round. So although I'm not going to, obviously he didn't get the win in the second round. They went on to the third round and fought a close fight. I think that that Faber, you know, deserves the shot to fight the winner of DJ Dillashaw and Dominic Cruz. He's got 5 wins in a row now at 135. And, you know, I don't think he's going to beat TJ Dillashaw, but the plan is there, guys. It's now teacher versus student, the good guy, Rocky Balboa, as Uriah Faber said. He's Rocky, I guess. And I'm ready to see that fight.
Yeah. For me, I gave it to Faber 29-28. I thought Signs took one of those rounds. As far as Faber goes, and, you know, I'd love to see that fight just because it's teacher versus student. And also I'd love to see the fight between him and Cruz because there's such a big history there between the two.
Okay? Yeah, it's 1-on-1 too.
Either way, I'd love to see that. But there's a lot of people out there who don't want to see that, who think Faber's over the hill. And mind you, don't get me wrong, Faber has lost a step and it's very apparent. But at the same time, He's winning fights. And because there's beef and there's history there with these two possible opponents, I say let him go for it. It's his last hurrah. Because for me, this is his last time, the way I see it anyway. This is his last time he can go for a belt.
Yeah, and I think he retires. I think he should retire either way. You and I always talk about
win or lose. Yeah,
who should this person should retire. This person should not retire. That kind of thing. I'm usually the guy who says, let him fight it out. A lot of times you're a little more, hey, this guy should hang it up because he doesn't have it left. It's very tough either way. Jens Pulver is one of those guys I think we agree on that should have hung it up a long time ago. And there's some guys that, I don't know. I'm just saying, Faber, it's you've done enough, man. Get this win or lose and walk away proud, man, because I'm proud of you and I think the sport's proud of you. Let's just run with that. I don't think he beats TJ Dillashaw, but I think at the end they're gonna hug, they're gonna put each other's hands up, and it's gonna be a good story and a big moneymaker for the UFC.
Yeah, because believe it or not, Mike, I was listening to another mixed martial arts podcast last week, and one of the hosts actually said that Uriah Faber should have been gone a long time ago, that nobody likes watching him fight.
Well,
somebody actually said that, and I'm glad one of the other hosts in this show, and I won't name the show, the other host said, "Are you crazy? Uriah is a huge draw. He's got a huge fan base," which he does.
Yeah.
Uriah is a huge draw. Whether you like him or not, folks, this guy brings in money for the UFC. He's very marketable. The guy's been that way all his career.
Did you hear the Irish fans for Uriah Faber?
Yes.
That's another country, okay?
Yes.
It's usually American fans that root against their own for someone like Anderson Silva, for someone like George St. Pierre. And this is not a political discussion. This is just the facts.
Yep.
And when you have another country, as Ireland and Brazil, they are so very. Now I realize that Faber was not fighting an Irishman, but they cheered for that guy, and that's a big deal. Yeah. And also, I'm not going to poo-poo that guy too hard who said that nobody likes him or that he should stop fighting. That's
no. He should have stopped fighting a long time ago.
Yeah, that's ludicrous. However, something I wanted to bring up, I forgot. I'm glad you jogged my memory with this discussion. And that is, it's not just that Uriah has lost a step, like all great athletes will. He's not fighting the way he usually fights. He's just throwing ones and twos, one twos barely. You know what I mean? He's still grappling a little bit, but where's the quick 1-2s into a takedown? Where's the leg kick? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He's definitely not the same fighter. But like I said, let him go out with a bang, win or lose. One last hurrah for him. If he achieves that gold in the UFC like he's dreamt of for many years, then kudos. But if he doesn't, hey, at least he tried and tried again. And
it's tough for me.
And he's got a great legacy,
Yeah, and it's tough for me because both you and I know, and a lot of people who are big fans of the sport know that he was the best at his time at featherweight.
Yes.
The UFC did not have the featherweight divisions. The best people at the featherweight division was in the WEC. He held court for years there.
Years. And he was an innovator too. He did things that no other fighter did. And he created moves and did certain things that no other fighter did. We'll leave all that talk for his retirement.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and let's talk about, well, you know what? We're done with 194 because there's nothing really to talk about other than those fights. Let's go ahead and talk about what we saw Friday night. We had the TUF finale. We had the TUF finale 22. Frankie Edgar versus Chad Mendes. Let's go ahead and get into it. We both called it. We both said Frankie Edgar would win this by decision, right?
No, sir. I thought he was going. I thought that.
Oh, really?
No, so I thought Mendes was going to win this fight by decision.
Okay.
I thought he would either knock him out late, or that he would win the decision by hurting him and not knocking him out.
Okay. I went with the decision with Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, you were right, yeah. Or I guess you weren't right by decision, but he won, yeah.
That's what I was thinking because nobody knocks out Frankie Edgar, number one, and I thought he would score more because, he's a volume puncher like we know him to be. I thought he was going to outscore Chad and win on the cards. boy, were we both wrong.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there was a text that you texted me earlier in the day, and you said, hey, I'm going to be late on the fights, so no texts. And what did I send you, Mike?
You sent a text saying, okay, I won't tell you that Frankie Edgar just knocked out Chad Mendes.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I said verbatim, I said, don't worry, you can watch Edgar KO Mendes later. And this was hours before the fight.
Yeah.
And I just said it in jest. So it was hilarious when I'm watching the fight, and then I see Frankie Edgar knock out Chad Mendes, and I immediately just thought, wow, I sent him a text saying that. And it was just funny.
I didn't even think of that when it happened because I was so surprised of how fast in the first round he was knocked out.
Oh, so was Edgar.
And I know that. What?
So was Edgar. Edgar was shocked. Did you see it on his face?
Well, yeah. He hit him in the nose. I mean, he didn't hit the temple or the jaw.
He didn't hit him with a hard strike, and he went down. That's not with a power strike anyway. It was just he touched him in the head, and
well, it's like we discussed.
Weird.
We discussed it earlier. You know, his chin might be gone. It's the age, not the
I
miles.
don't know.
But, you know, Edgar, he's a fine striker, so sometimes these things are going to land. You know, he knocked down and basically finished Gray Maynard, so he's got it in him.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a perfect, it was a precision shot, I guess, as Connor would say, right?
Yeah.
That's what makes that fight between him and Connor such a great fight, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I still would say Connor's going to win that fight, but Frankie's fast. Frankie can get some shots in there at least. I
think he prolongs the loss because I still soundly think McGregor. But I think I still want to see that fight for sure.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fine fight, I think.
Yeah.
And assuming that does happen. And I want to say something that you've always been a big fan of Frankie Edgar, and I've kind of he's never been one of my top favorite fighters, like, you know, Uriah Benson, you know, Matt Hughes.
Well, you better get on the train now. You better get on the train now because it's going to be leaving.
No, like I said, though, I've always liked him. He's always been a guy that when I know he's fighting, I'm going to watch. I'm going to like him. He's a respectful guy.
Yep.
He's a good dude. And when he knocked out Chad Mendes, I was sad because I'm a Mendes fan. I'm a big Team Alpha Male fan. And I realize you are too. I'm not trying to say that, no. You don't like Chad Mendes, obviously. But I was fine because this guy is a good dude. And you know what? Good power to him.
Yeah, I was surprised that he knocked him out, and so was Edgar. Like I said, you could see that look on his face when he knocked him out, and he kind of ran around the cage stunned, with that stunned look like, oh, I did it, you know?
Yeah.
But you know what? You know, Frankie Edgar's such a game opponent. He's such a, you know, he's a volume striker, but he's still got that little bit of pop, as he said, in his strikes. And Chad Mendes, like we said, he's got some kind of, he might have an issue with his chin. Who knows? It could have just been that it wasn't his night. I don't know. Yeah,
you're right. It could be a lot of those things.
But as far as Chad Mendes goes, where do you see him going from here, man? Like,
yeah, you know, if I'm Chad Mendes, because of what the high level he's been
take
fighting
some time off.
That's what I was going to lead to, is that I would take not a year off or anything like that, but really, man, just enjoy life. You know, I don't know if he's married or has children, or you know, if he loves reading, he doesn't have any kids, whatever. Read a book, hang out.
Yeah.
Just train and be cool. Now, this guy is a fighter. This guy is a good dude. He's still one of the best in the division, obviously. But you know, maybe you give him Holloway. I'm Holloway crazy right now, I guess, because I'm giving Holloway to everybody. But really, he's lost 3 times now for the belt. Even though one of them was interim, against 2 people, Aldo twice and then Connor. And now he's lost to Edgar. Now, none of those guys are slouches at all. They're like the top 5, top 3 probably. So I just say take time off, man. I really do.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer right now.
I agree with that 100%. Take 6-7 months off and then come back refreshed, you know, both physically and mentally. And
wrestle, dang it. Wrestle.
Yes. Definitely use your strengths, and your top strength is your wrestling. You do have heavy hands, Chad, but you know your wrestling is top notch in the division. That said, Holloway, I can understand you saying that you know you throw Holloway to him maybe in 6 or 7 months. That's because what we saw tonight in Holloway isn't the Holloway we know him to be. He is a better fighter than what he showed tonight.
Right.
So yeah. I could totally see that. That makes sense. Frankie Edgar, of course, we talked. Conor McGregor should be next for him. If they don't give the rematch to Aldo, give it to Frankie. And I say we got a great fight there in Frankie Edgar and Conor McGregor. Mm-hmm. That'd be an awesome fight.
And two different demeanors, two different attitudes going at that fight. So we're going to see if Conor can crack if McGregor can crack Edgar to bring him out of his shell.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. McGregor's already shown respect to Edgar. So much so that he says that that's the only guy he wants to defend the belt against before he moves up. I mean, that says a lot coming from a guy like McGregor. But,
is that because at the Go Big conference,
yes.
Edgar said that of course I want the fight. It's the money fight. He's right. Yeah, I know. Maybe that's the reason, or maybe he just respects him.
He respects him. He said something to the effect that Edgar is the only guy who's not so flat-footed and stuff. But
it's big. It's big for McGregor because McGregor doesn't want to fight.
Right. If we keep jumping back and forth to the Aldo McGregor fight, sorry folks, but it's crazy. It's insane.
It's all circular though, man. It's just how it's going.
Yeah. Mike, let's go ahead and move on.
There's maybe only two other fights to talk about in that card, in my opinion, and that would be Tony Ferguson. What a stud that guy! But ever since Ultimate Fighter, this guy's gotten better. He's now, I think 9-1. He had one loss. He look, give this guy a top 5 opponent already.
Yes.
Edson Barboza was bloody and broken. And please go to the Facebook site and look at the picture I posted. It's an awesome picture.
But not just that. You got to back up. The fight was phenomenal, and Edson Barboza was giving it all he got and got some great shots in. Yep. It was a beautiful fight going back and forth.
Yep.
And then Ferguson just basically said, I had enough, and finished it just like that.
With his patented Darce choke, and it's a beautiful thing. When that guy lands that, when Team Alpha Male, when they get that guillotine, especially Uriah Faber, but then they get that guillotine, okay, this is it. You always know Darce is his.
Definitely.
And the way he rolls to get stuff, on the ground, it's just,
it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And Edson Barboza is a dangerous guy. Them kicks are dangerous. And Tony Ferguson, he ate a few of those, but he took it like a champ. And speaking of which, I think Tony Ferguson could be a future champ in this division. I mean, he is that good. And just to think that he's still basically in his infancy in this game.
Yeah, he's young.
He's young, but he's also young in the game,
Oh no, that's what I mean. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
He'll be around for years, and I could totally see him being a champ.
This is something that I always throw around GSP for something like this, which is when you saw GSP coming up, you knew, okay, Matt Hughes now has someone that's really gonna have to take seriously, and maybe they're gonna have whoever has the belt. Let's just say it's Dos Anjos, because he's currently has the belt. Maybe Dos Anjos beats him, but we see that the next time it might not be, and he'll get the belt, a la just like Matt Hughes did with GSP. This guy is learning. He's fast. He's tough. He's unorthodox. When he has to be, specific and fight, in the orthodox style, he can do it. It's, as long as he doesn't get, beat up too, he's fine with taking shots. He's going to be around a while, like you said. Darce choke, second round. It was beautiful. All
right, Mike. So next up, let's talk about, there was only a few notable fights in this card. Joe Lauzon and Evan Dunham. I picked Lauzon to win. You picked Dunham. And you were right this time. And I have to say that Evan Dunham looked spectacular. He looked spectacular to me. What did you think?
Yeah, I picked him to win by decision, which he did. I didn't think it was going to go the way it did, though. He basically pushed around the top, post-fight earner, performance earner in Joe Lauzon. Pushed him around, won that fight. I mean, Lauzon didn't have anything for him. And, it's true that Dunham wins by decision a lot, but he wins.
It's
and
right how
now,
he
that's
won
what's
it.
going on.
Yeah, it's how he won this decision. It was so definitive. He basically shut down Joe Lauzon like I've never seen Joe Lauzon shut down before. He was completely neutralized. There was nothing he could do to even touch Dunham. Dunham basically held him at bay with his strikes, mixed it up. I haven't seen this kind of fight in Evan Dunham ever.
Yeah, and it's the new camp. He's been in a new camp for 2 fights now. No longer in Extreme Couture. That's kind of disbanded a bit. And now I believe it's Sinister MMA or Submission MMA. I'm not sure, but he's looking great.
Well, with the way he mixed it up between his boxing and then the inside dirty boxing, the kicks, the takedowns, everything he was doing totally confused Joe, and he didn't know what to look out for. It seemed like he was dumbfounded. He didn't know what was going to come next from Evan.
Yeah, and he continued to move forward doing that as well. It's something it's fresh in my mind because I wrote all the pieces for these fights today because I was just so tired from last night from doing other things. Here's the wins. Excuse me. Here's the losses for Evan Dunham in his last 3 losses. He lost to Edson Barboza. Mm-hmm. He lost to Cowboy Cerrone. He lost to Rafael Dos Anjos.
Yep.
Those are guys that are the killers in the division.
Yes, they are.
He's now won 3 in a row. Now, I obviously understand that the guys he's beaten are not that caliber. But this guy, late in his career, does he have a run in him? I'm not saying he's going to fight for the belt, but, he's looking good.
Here's a reason why I think that he can mix it up with these guys and possibly beat some of those guys that he lost to. Number one, he's not as fast as those guys, but he's got this game where he's mixing it up more now, and he's throwing these strikes better. He looks much better than he has before. Just mixing it up the way he does, or he did in this fight, really shows me that he can compete with these other guys, especially with. I think that he has a possible shot against Edson Barboza fighting like this.
Oh, I agree. In a rematch, it would be a lot closer. I totally agree.
Yeah, exactly. And I realize Edson Barboza beat him by TKO, but I think if they were to fight again, I think that Evan Dunham would have a shot against him. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I totally agree, especially with him moving forward. And, Barboza likes to be comfortable and throw his shots, but when guys go forward against him, Ferguson, Paul Felder, guys like this, he has some trouble with them. He might beat them sometimes, but he has trouble.
Oh, I think I'd like to see a Paul Felder, Evan Dunham fight too. I think that'd be pretty interesting. Because again, Paul Felder's not a quick striker, but he's a heavy striker and he's a game fighter. So I think I'd like to see that fight too. Mike, other than that, we have a new Ultimate Fighter winner for season 22.
Yes, we do.
And who is that, Mike?
It's Ryan Hall. Jay, I know you didn't watch a lot of the show.
No, I didn't.
You big cord cutter, although I think your cord has been mended.
My cord has been mended just because I can't stay away from these live FS1 fights.
That's good, man, because, this season of The Ultimate Fighter, I watched the whole thing. Christy, my wife, she watched the whole thing with me, which is great. It was that entertaining enough. But of course, it did have Uriah Faber and, not Jose Aldo, had Uriah Faber and Conor McGregor as the coaches. So it was just great TV. But Ryan Hall, he is what you call a submission savant. A lot of times people use submission wizard, submission ace. I use those terms as well. But the savant comes from, he's kind of a weird guy, but he knows what he's doing. It's not like he's not the textbook athlete. He squints his eye. His eyes kind of squinty a little bit. He's kind of a weird dude. He's a great guy, nice guy. But what this guy does on the ground, what he does, the fight against Artem Labov, who trains with Conor McGregor outside of the show, he shut him down completely. Yeah. And
it was
Labov,
beautiful.
if you watch the show, guys, you know this. That guy's a knockout puncher, and you got to watch out. And he got nothing on Hall.
Yeah, all I had was highlights on Artem, and yeah, he's a knockout artist. The guy has some heavy hands. But to watch Ryan Hall just totally dismantle this guy's game, and just the way he kept riding his back and transitioning, those transitions were beautiful.
Especially the first round, that right in the beginning.
Oh, man. And the boos in the crowd really irritated me because Ryan Hall was putting on a clinic. He was putting on a show. Guys, if you like MMA, you must appreciate all facets of it. And BJJ is one of those, and the guy's amazing at it. And like Damian Maia, like Gunnar Nelson, these guys are fun to watch. You just have to respect it, learn a little bit about it. If you're one of those that boo this ground game. But Artem Lobov had nothing for him.
Yeah, and and this Ryan Hall, he's 4-1. He's young in the game, and he's taking on a guy who was I believe 11 or 12 and 10 and one draw. So look, Lobov is not he's not a killer. He's not this guy who's going to go places, but he's an experienced guy. He's been in with a lot of people, whereas Ryan Hall hasn't. Or hasn't been in with a lot of people. And Uriah Faber called it from the beginning. He said, this guy's special. This guy's probably going to be in the finale. And that's something I'll bring up really quick as well, is because a lot of people don't watch the show because they just watch the fights or whatever.
Yeah.
And that is that Hall won his fight to get into the house. He won the next fight, but he lost in the semifinals, so he was off. And then they called him back in for the show because Saul Rogers, who he lost to, I believe, had visa issues coming from England, so they called him up. And then, of course, if you watch the show, you'll know that Lobov, he didn't even make it into the house, or maybe he made it into the house, but he lost his first fight. But they brought him back in because they had a thing which was new to the show, Jay. And I don't know if I've told you this or not, but they had, instead of having a wild card, they had 9 winners in the first round, and the winner who didn't do very well was out. And they brought him back in.
Wow.
So both these guys came in with losses.
All right. Well, you know what? Congratulations to Ryan Hall. We have a new two goes to Ryan Hall. So Tim, and it was a decision, guys. Let's move on. Let's go ahead and talk about the other card we had in the same week. This was an unprecedented week for the UFC. I haven't saw 3 cards from the UFC in 1 week ever. I don't think it's been done.
Yeah, it hasn't been done. You might have them spread out, say, like on a Saturday and then a Wednesday card and then maybe another fight night card the week
next
after,
Saturday,
but
or
not
something.
like this.
Yeah, not like this. It was 3 consecutive days in a row where we just had fight after fight after fight. And you know what? I want more, Mike.
Hey, I agree. Dude, thank God that, you were off from work for this, and thank God I had morning shifts at my job, because with having to watch these fights, and although I love writing on the Facebook, it takes a lot out of me, and man, by the time 194 got here and I could relax for about 3 hours, it was worth it, man. And these 3 cards were great. And
next week we have Cowboy and RDA.
Oh yeah, we'll get
to the Fight Night 80. That was Paige Van Zandt versus Rose Namajunas. Mike, we both didn't see this fight going the way it went. Paige Van Zandt lost to Rose Namajunas in the, I believe it was what?
It was the 5th round.
5th round.
Yeah.
And it was a very heartfelt loss because Paige Van Zandt was surviving so many sub attempts and getting out of them. And great sub attempts by Rose Namajunas, matter of fact. Paige Van Zandt showed me one thing, that she has heart.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. We both knew that Rose Namajunas could win this fight, and you said, of course, that it was a stronger fight than the Joanne Calderwood fight, even though they were ranked differently or whatever. Or no, I'm sorry, Namajunas was ranked higher, even though she was only 3-2 in her professional career. But as we know, she's got a ton of experience, amateur as well as on the season of TUF she was in.
Yeah.
So I knew she could win this fight, and it wouldn't have been a surprise. The surprising factor was how she did it. But you touched on already about the heart of Paige Van Zandt.
Yeah.
The arm bar that was slapped on her, that was reminiscent of Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey in their first fight in the UFC, was crazy. And to finish my thought really quick, because I know we need to go back and forth on this because it's such a great topic, is that I really wanted her to go to the scorecards, because I wanted to say, look at this, it's amazing. She went the whole way. She's tough. She's going to learn. And she didn't make it all the way, but she still showed great heart. If her arm was not busted, I think she goes to the cards, because she just could not grab the arm of Rose Namajunas strongly enough to not get choked out because it was so busted.
Yeah. You know what? I still say she did fantastic to survive, and she has a lot of heart, and she will be back. And you know what? She said it at the end. You know, in the press conference, the post-fight press conference, she said that, you know, she has a lot of heart. She knows she needs more skills to come back and get that, go for the belt anyway. But she'll be back, and she'll definitely learn from this. And you know what? I see that 100% in her. She's stronger than I ever thought she was, to be honest. To take that armbar the way she did and not tap out, I would have been crying on that mat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the pain she took, all the blood that was going everywhere.
Oh, her cheek was busted up in the first, I think, by an elbow.
I mean, if it wasn't the first, it was at least the first couple rounds.
Yeah.
And Rose Namajunas, she showed us that even though she's got more experience than Paige Van Zandt, if she has more experience, maybe you win the fight. You look, pretty good, but she just looked phenomenal. Another level, better than she looked against her last few fights.
Yeah, a lot better. She had great transitions. The sub attempts, to be honest, if she was fighting anybody else, I think they would have tapped with any of those sub attempts. The Paige got out of some crazy. She had her by the throat and was going to guillotine her, and I think it was a rear naked at one point. And
most of them are rear naked.
Yeah,
most of them.
Paige got out of it. She just pushed that elbow and got her arm up over her face and got out of it. And I was shocked. I was like, wow, this girl's tough. So you know what? Paige will be back. But kudos to Rose Namajunas. She showed us that she was the better fighter.
And she's already fought for the belt, the inaugural strawweight belt. She lost to Carla Esparza, the Cookie Monster, and then but I think 2 more fights, she'll probably be fighting for the belt again. Claudia Gadelha is probably going to fight. Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Yep.
But I guess Rose is back in the mix now.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. And I say if she fights Carla Esparza right now again, I think she beats Carla hands down.
Yeah, and I don't know where Carla Esparza is anymore.
Nobody knows where she is.
She's hiding.
Literally, nobody knows where Carla is. What happened to the Cookie Monster? Maybe she ate too many cookies. I don't know. Well,
yeah, exactly.
Who knows? Anyway, let's move on. We have the fight between Jim Miller and Michael Chiesa. Now, here's the thing. My heart goes out to Jim Miller because I'm a big...
Did somebody die, Jay?
No. But part of me died when Jim Miller lost to Michael Chiesa. Jim Miller is one of those guys that, we've been following this guy's career for quite some time. I'm a huge fan. Jim Miller losing to Michael Chiesa the way he did was just upsetting.
Yeah, I picked Chiesa, but I didn't see it going this way. Chiesa is one of those guys, again, like Tony Ferguson, but not to that extent, in so much as though that I've liked him since the show and he showed me something. And maybe he's not on this crazy rise that Ferguson is on, and he's not as as good as Ferguson is. But the guy's he's slowly moving up the ladder. Just got his first big veteran win. Look, Jim Miller, I know it, you know it, probably most of the people out there know it. Is that this guy's always in the top 5?
It's a feather
top
in the cap.
Sure,
it's a feather in the cap for him.
Yeah, So where does he go from here now? I don't know. I think, he said he doesn't want to go back. I liked his post-fight comment. I don't want to look back anymore. Just give me guys
that are
ahead
ranked.
of me.
Yep.
And I agree.
Yep. And you have to. Jim Miller, however, he's on the decline. He's been on the decline his last, few fights. He had a win against Danny Castillo, but then I think he lost 2 times before that. I can't remember to who right now, but he lost a couple of times in a row.
It wasn't names that were in the top 5, and that's kind of telling you something for his decline. But for Chiesa to finish him,
look at this. All right, yeah, go ahead with your thoughts, Mike. For Chiesa to finish this, what?
I mean, that's still to finally finish a big veteran like that. That's the next step in his career, and now he moves forward.
Yeah. I guess the couple losses that he lost to before Danny Castillo was against Beneil Dariush and Donald Cerrone. No slouches.
Oh yeah, Dariush was on the moving up for a while until yeah. So there you go.
So okay, and so he won against Danny and then lost against Michael Chiesa. or Chiesa.
It was a
however you say
choke
it.
in the second or third for Chiesa. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was a choke.
It was a rear naked, and it was in the second round. That's
Second
what
round, yeah,
was
so I was
so.
right. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's what was so like heartfelt for me, because I was like, no, Jim, because he's one of those guys that we followed for so long, and I just didn't want to see him go out that way. Not saying that's his last fight or anything, but
Right.
we're getting to that point where one of these days he's going to announce, "Hey, I'm retiring."
Hey, we've talked a lot about Evan Dunham. Do we do Evan Dunham, Jim Miller?
I think
Max Holloway, Jim Miller.
I think this Evan Dunham beats Jim Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I was just messing around, just throwing.
No,
it out.
I hear you. I hear you. Okay, Mike. Moving on from that one, we had another fight with Sage Northcutt. and
Super Sage Northcutt.
Super Sage Northcutt against Cody Fister.
Cody the Fist Fister.
The Fist Fister. I don't like that name, but it
weird.
kind of sounds pornographic. I don't know. Not to get that in your mind, but
no, it sounds like a sect act. So,
yeah. And he talks like he's a serial killer. So I'm afraid of you, Cody. I'm afraid of you, man. You can beat my butt, but
don't let your kids take candy from him, Jay.
That sounds kind of bad. We're just talking about his name.
I know.
Like
He's probably a fine guy. We shouldn't do that. You're right.
And then I told him, he could beat my butt. No thanks, Cody. Anyway, let's get into this fight. Sage Northcutt, Cody Fister. Sage Northcutt wins, of course, but it's how he won that I found kind of interesting. Mike, during this fight, did you see this outcome?
The final outcome?
Yeah, the final
which
outcome.
was a TKO in the second?
The whole fight, the way it went.
I thought, well, first of all, let me give my boy Sage some props first before I get to part of it that was not part of the outcome, which is he looked great in top position when he finally got a takedown. Once he got a takedown, he was in top position, and the round ended, but he was probably the second round happened, and he took Fister down again and finished it by ground and pound.
No, actually it was submission, guillotine.
Oh, it was
choke.
submission the first time.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where we've seen so much MMA. He probably,
right.
But yeah,
at the end of the first round, he was standing above him, and I think that must have been what was in my head.
Yeah, he had a guillotine choke, and he was squatting down.
Oh yeah. Okay, I got you. Okay,
yeah.
So basically, I didn't think he looked great off his back, and it's something you and I discussed. After it happened.
Yeah,
he would put his leg on his foot on Fister's leg as if to try and push off or do something like that. But then he basically just kind of held him close and looked for the stand up.
Yeah, I didn't like him on his back at all. I thought that he wasn't trying to get up at all. It's like he was just laying there, and he tried to hold on to Fister a few times just to kind of get it to stand up. But you never want to lay your back like that on the mat and just lay there. Especially when you're not as skilled as they say anyway, that Cody Fister is more skilled than he is on the ground. And if that were true, you don't want to lay on your back like that and just lay there. I thought he wasn't doing enough to get up. And when he did finally get up, what I thought was interesting was he took Fister down and then guillotine choked him. And he took him down rather easily at that, which I thought was kind of odd, because at the end of the fight, he told Joe, well, I didn't know. He said something about how he didn't know that Fister was going to take him down right away. So if he knew that, he would have just taken him down first or something. Do you remember hearing something like that?
I don't remember hearing that, but if that's what he said, it's just, I think he thought he was going to stand with him, so he wanted to stand with him. I think based off what he just said, everything came to fruition the way it would have happened anyway.
Yeah.
Which is, he got taken down in the first round, and they stood him up, which I thought was kind of a. It was a
bad stand. To me, it was a bad stand up. I thought Fister was doing enough to stay on top.
Okay, well, so what I mean is, it's when I say it's not really a bad stand up. When I say really, I mean like I understand why it was stood up. But Christy told me something. Actually, she didn't tell me. She wrote it on the Facebook page, which is Cody Fister wasn't doing anything on top. He wasn't doing enough to really hurt Sage. So Sage would have rode out the round, and then they would have just went to the round, and then came out in the second round. And he would have took him down like normal.
Yeah. I believe that would have happened because, in terms of damage. He wasn't doing a lot of damage, but he was on top of him, moving and throwing some punches here and there. But as far as when they stood him up, what was odd to me was he had Pfister on him for quite some time during that round, and he wasn't tired at all. He wasn't breathing heavy, and you look to the other side of the cage, and Pfister's breathing heavily. And I'm like, wow, that tells you something right there. The conditioning of this kid is through the roof, and this guy's got cardio for days.
And I think... Sorry, Jay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. What's your thought?
Well, I think part of that is because when you look at the fight, in that first round, he was holding Pfister close. And so basically he was probably using a lot of strength. Pfister was using a lot of strength probably to get up and throw punches, So, maybe there's a little bit of that.
That might be, but usually when you're carrying somebody's weight on top of you, you're usually breathing a little bit. But he was like it was nothing. He was fresh. He was ready
Well, he's
to go.
a freak athlete, man.
He is a
fighting
freak
since he was 4 years old. And, I mean, he looks like... I don't know if I told you this or told one of my buddies at work or whatever, but he looks like, they say, the guy looks like he's chiseled out of stone. That saying, what I think, the guy looks like he's been made out of clay. Like you just, you got some silly putty or some clay, and then you just kind of put a line down there and a line here. It's really odd. It's because this guy has been working out and doing 100 push-ups since he was 7 and all that weird stuff.
The guy's had a 6-pack since he was like 5, Right, it's crazy when you see old pictures of this kid. But you know what? Kudos to Sage Northcutt winning by guillotine like that in the second round. It was crazy. But where does he go from here, Mike?
Well, I was kind of thinking about that. I think they'll still give him something slow, somebody that we know, but someone who is not still super great. Because he showed that off his back, unless it was a planned the way he fought, to kind of like tire him out or something like that, which I doubt. But he did look good on his back. However, he looked super dominant once he got the takedown in both rounds. And his striking in the first fight was super dominant. So I think you don't give him a jiu-jitsu guy. I think you don't give him a wrestler. You maybe give him, another guy like Cody Pfister, only a little better. And I don't have a name for you right now because I don't know what you do with a guy like this because
you don't want to give him a high rank guy right now. I mean, I don't think he's ready personally. I think you groom him a little bit more, which I think that the UFC is doing by giving him his first couple fights. I'm not saying Pfister is an easy fight. I'm just saying that they're taking it slow.
Yeah, and he's had 2 fights on Fight Pass. I mean, that should tell you something,
Oh, but Mike, he loves Fight Pass. He loves fighting on Fight Pass.
He is my hero. That guy is such a good dude.
You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of Captain America from the movies. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anyway, great kid, though.
And I did go Google 316, John 316. Actually, I didn't Google it.
You already know John 316. What are you talking about? Who are you trying to fool, Mike?
I know. I'm just messing with you.
Anyway, he gets the win here. And like I said, second round, guillotine choke. Only other fight I want to touch on was from the prelims, Mike, and that's just because there's this up-and-coming fighter by the name of Aljamain Sterling, which he looks like a phenomenal prospect. You know what? I see good things coming from this guy. I can't wait to see him fight against tougher competition, but I thought the fighter he fought against on that card was game, and he kind of made him look silly. Kind of just the way he fought. He fights with a swagger and confidence, kind of like Romero does, yet he's more flashy. So what did you think about Sterling's fight?
He comes from a really great camp, Sarah Longo, and those guys have a little bit of attitude to them. Chris Weidman may not have a big attitude, but Sarah Longo, both those guys kind of do, and I think is a great fit for him. And he is an upcoming prospect. What's interesting though is that he's ranked number 5 in the division, and people are turning down fights to this guy. Brian Caraway's turned down. Well, Brian Caraway turns down a lot of fights.
He turns down
evidently.
some fights.
But this is a guy like you said, you've got to watch. And I've seen him a couple fights ago, and the reason he stuck in my mind is because whenever you have Matt Serra in the cage talking to somebody, it's just I find Matt Serra's voice comical. So and this guy looks pretty good. He was young, and the division, the bantamweights. they're not as bad as, say, the heavyweight division, but they're very top heavy. They're top heavy in the fact that the top 5 guys are really good, or the top 3 guys are really good, but then you have a clear delineation. And Aljamain Sterling has a great camp. He's got great tools. He's flashy, and he could make some moves in a couple of fights.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Mike. 100%. Sterling looked great, but I want to see him fight some higher level competition, and I'm sure we'll see that soon. Anyway, Mike, we better wrap up the show because we've been on for quite some time now. And before we wrap up, though, let's go ahead and get into let's do some picks for next week, because we have a few big fights I'm sure you'll want to pick and I want to pick. So let's get into that.
Yeah, on Friday, just really quickly before we move on to the Saturday's UFC on Fox 17, Friday we've got a WSOF 26. That's going to be Friday on NBC Sports Channel. Not a great card, but the main event is Lance Palmer defending his featherweight title against Alexandre Almeida. This is kind of a showcase fight in a way for Lance Palmer, although Almeida, he's 17-5 with 13 subs, so he's no pushover. Mm-hmm. So I would still take a look at that. WSOF puts on great fights. This Lance Palmer guy, he's team alpha male. If he was in the UFC, he'd be breaking necks over there. Yeah. So yeah.
I'll definitely be checking that out now that I have my cable back.
We pick 'em.
Exactly.
We pick 'em.
And you know what? And UFC on Fox 17 this Saturday now is going to be Rafael Dos Anjos versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone 2. We're also going to have Junior Dos Santos versus Alistair Overeem. And the other big fight is Nate Diaz versus Michael Johnson.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to these fights, more so for the RDA versus Cowboy. And I'd like, since want to see where he's at right now, both mentally and, physically. Johnson, on the other hand, I think will probably win this. Think about this fight, Mike. Who do you think wins this one?
Well, I'm looking towards Johnson overall. But remember, our talks about Johnson is that he doesn't have that killer instinct and he doesn't seem to want to finish fights, or maybe doesn't want to, but he just doesn't try as much as maybe we think he should. Nate Diaz is going to bring that out of him. Nate Diaz is either going to get him to fight or he's going to finish Michael Johnson. But even so, even after that, Michael Johnson has such a good head on his shoulder now that he wins a decision again. If I have to make a choice or a pick, it's going to be Johnson by decision.
That's what I'm guessing.
But Diaz is going to pull it out of him.
Yeah, I'm guessing Johnson by decision as well. I think that Nate Diaz, him being maybe this long hiatus of his, just kind of holds him back. I don't know, but I'm picking Johnson by decision. On to the Junior Dos Santos fight against Alistair Overeem. I'm going for JDS in this one. I know it's been a long hiatus for JDS, but I'm still not high on Overeem. Never have been. I don't think I ever will be. I'm not high on this whole division right now. I think it's very stale, lackluster, and if that Gonzaga fight the other night was any indication of where this division is at, I really don't like it. But anyway, as far as I'm concerned, for this fight, JDS, I think will win this fight, and I think it might be. I think he might finish Overeem.
Yeah, I said this when it was first released. I think Junior Dos Santos knocks him out in the first round or the second round, probably the second but I won't be surprised if it's the first. Junior Dos Santos is still cream of the crop, man. He's still that top 3 with Verdum and Cain Velasquez.
And that's all you got.
But
and that's all you got.
What's that?
That's all you got in the division is those 3 guys right there.
That's my problem. Is that, but then after that, you've got a big fall off. And Overeem is just there because he's a name value and he's an impressive looking dude. And he talks like this on the mic. And I'm going to fight these guys, and they're going to fight me, and I'm going to punch them. They're going to fall.
Yep, that sounds like him.
So yeah, this is, I don't want to say a squash match for Junior Dos Santos, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I hope he wins anyway. And I usually won't come out and say that on these podcasts who I'm pulling for, but I'm telling you right now, not a fan of Overeem. Anyway, let's go next to Dos Anjos, that other Dos in this fight card. Let's go ahead and go to RDA versus Cowboy. You know what? My heart wants to go Cowboy, Mike, but I'm going to RDA.
You know, man, because of so many fights to talk about, I didn't really look too much into who would win or whatever. Just like, you're talking about. My heart is Cowboy. I don't know if Dos Anjos had Pettis' number or if this time Cowboy knows it's his last shot and he's going to get it. I think it's going to be a competitive fight, Jay.
I hope so.
I think I'm going to go with Dos Anjos. But I think that Cowboy's really going to put it to him. I think we're going to have a great fight here. Hopefully, Cowboy wins. But, the head on Dos Anjos, his head is like a block of, I don't know. It's like a cinder block. It's giant.
It's like a big brick. And here's the thing, though. I think some of those head kicks of Cerrone's has the potential of knocking out anyone, RDA included. But it's being able to throw them and connect with them that's going to be the key here, because I think RDA, with the way he's been looking in his past few fights, he's been very fast, very strong, and in your face right away.
Yeah.
And, if he gets close up and dirty with Cerrone and starts, dirty boxing and doing his thing, pressing the fight like he has been, I think Cerrone's in a world of hurt.
Yeah, that leads to something I was going to bring up also. It's a perfect lead-in to say that Cerrone's going to have to fight off his back here a little bit, possibly. And he can maybe get the fight done that way.
He's good off his back.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's going to have to fight off his back and maybe catch him that way. But it's going to be a fantastic fight. It's free on Fox on Saturday. You can't ask for more. Oh, and, let me also just throw out a few names. These are not fights we're going to discuss. The prelims, please watch the prelims if you like names that you've seen in the past. Charles Oliveira, yep. Miles Jury, Nate Marquardt, Sarah Kaufman, Danny Castillo, Cole Miller. Those guys are all on the prelims. They're not fighting each other with the exception of Charles Oliveira's fighting Miles Jury, but there's some good guys to watch here, and ladies.
Yep, and those will be live on FS1. So check out the prelims. They're pretty good. Great card overall. For free. You can't beat it. Yeah, so things up here, Mike. It's been a long night and a great night. McGregor, kudos, to solidify that belt. He is the undisputed champ now. And also kudos to Rockhold. He is now the new middleweight champ. So awesome job. Anyway, folks, we've got to go. But like always, check out our Facebook. That's at MMA Think Tank Podcast. And also MMA Think Tank at gmail.com. And our phone number, 925-237-1296. Give us a call. Let us know what you think. Mike, any last words?
You know what, man? Just, no, let's just, we'll do another podcast. I don't know if it'll be 2 weeks because 2 weeks is around Christmas time. So we'll have to decide if we're going to do it the day after Christmas or a couple days later. Because I know we love our Christmas and you got kids.
I think we're going to be a week late on that. So it'll be 3 weeks out. Will be our next podcast.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll talk about UFC Fox on Fox 17. We'll talk about that and whatever comes up after that.
All right. So thanks a lot for listening.
And it may not be till 3 weeks next time we have a pod every day, bringing up stuff and talking about stuff. And Jay's smart guy. He got us on Twitter. So, he's putting stuff up as well. So letting you know what's going on as well. Both of us doing the best we can.
All right. Later, guys.
Bye-bye.